Chapter 1. The Last Hope. Clara sat on the small couch and stared at the bills on the table. Her hands were cold. She was 25 and lived alone in a tiny apartment in New York. 2 months ago she had lost her job. At first she thought she would find a new one soon, but days turned into weeks and no one called her back. She sent more letters, filled more forms, and still there was silence. The rent was late. The landlord's notes were on her door. She ate noodles every night and pretended it was fine, but it was not fine anymore. Her life felt like a slow storm that would not stop. One evening her phone buzzed. It was her best friend Lena. "I'm coming over," she said. Clara wanted to say no, but she did not want to be alone either. Lena arrived with a small bag of groceries. She looked around the room and sighed. "Clara, you can't live like this. You're too quiet." Clara tried to smile. "I'm trying to find work," she said softly. "No one wants to hire me. I don't know what to do." Her voice broke. Tears rolled down her face. Lena hugged her tightly. "Don't cry," she whispered. "Something good will come." They sat together eating cheap sandwiches. Then Lena spoke again. "Clara, I heard something strange." Clara looked at her. "What is it?" Lena lowered her voice. "Some rich families pay women to carry their babies. It's called surrogacy." Clara blinked in surprise. "You mean like having a baby for someone else?" "Yes," Lena said. "Sounds crazy, but it's true. I know a woman who did it. She got $500,000. Clara laughed weakly. "That sounds like a movie." Lena shook her head. "No, it's real. You could try." Clara stared at her friend. "Me? No, I can't do that." "Just think," Lena said gently. "Could solve everything." That night Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. $500,000 kept spinning in her head. She thought about her empty fridge, her rent, her dreams that never happened. She tried to close her eyes, but tears came again. Around midnight she sat up, turned on her old laptop and typed slowly. "Private surrogacy offer, New York." Many links appeared. Her heart beat faster. Then she saw one ad that looked simple but powerful. "Private agreement. Must be healthy. $500,000. Live in-house. Full care provided." She read it again and again. Her hands shook. Could this be real? She looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were tired. Her life had stopped moving. She whispered, "What else can I do?" In that moment she made the choice that would change everything. The next morning she printed the address written in the ad and took the subway to the location. The ride felt endless. She kept thinking, maybe this is wrong. Maybe it's dangerous. But another voice inside her said, "You have nothing left to lose." When she arrived, she saw a huge white house. It looked silent, too perfect. Her heart pounded. She stood near the gate for a long time. A man passed by and looked at her curiously. She turned away. Finally, she walked to the door and rang the bell. The sound echoed in her chest. A tall man opened the door. His eyes were sharp but calm. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I came about the advertisement," she said quietly. The man looked at her for a few seconds, then stepped aside. "Come in." Clara entered slowly. The air felt heavy. She looked at the man again. "Are you the one who posted it?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "My name is Ethan." His voice was deep and steady. He gestured toward the living room. "Sit down." Clara sat on the edge of the sofa, afraid to move. Ethan looked at some papers on the table. "Do you know what this agreement means?" he asked. Clara nodded. "I think so. You need someone to carry your baby." Ethan's eyes lifted to hers. It's not easy, he said. You will have to stay here for 9 months. No phone, no contact with anyone. After the baby is born, you will leave. You will never see me or the baby again. Clara felt her throat tighten. No contact at all, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. No contact. It's a business deal. No love, no feelings. His words cut like cold air. He placed a paper and a pen in front of her. You can read it if you agree. Sign. Clara stared at the paper. She thought of her apartment, the unpaid rent, and her mother's photo on the wall. She thought of how tired she was of fighting alone. She whispered to herself, I need this chance. Then she picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking when she signed her name. Ethan took the paper, folded it, and said simply, Welcome. There was no smile on his face. He stood up and left the room. Clara sat there, frozen. She had just made the biggest decision of her life, and she did not know whether it would save her or destroy her. That night she lay in the guest room of Ethan's big house. It was silent, too silent. She closed her eyes and whispered, Please, let this be right. But deep inside she felt something strange, like her heart was warning her that this was only the beginning. Like, subscribe, and share. Read this story and many more on our website bookishenglish.com. Link in the description. Chapter 2. The Contract. The next morning, Clara woke up in a room that did not feel like hers. Her body was in a new bed, but her mind was still in her old apartment. She remembered the moment she signed the paper. Her name on that page had changed her life. She touched her stomach and whispered, 9 months. A woman in a white coat entered. Good morning. I'm Dr. Grace. I'll check on you daily. Clara nodded quietly. The doctor smiled softly. Everything will be arranged for you. Just follow the instructions. When the doctor left, Clara looked around the quiet house. She felt strange, like she was safe but not free. That afternoon, Ethan came to her room. He stood near the door holding a folder. You'll stay here for 9 months, he said. In his calm, low voice. You'll have regular checkups. The baby's health is most important. Clara nodded. I understand. Ethan paused, then added, You cannot go out. You cannot call anyone. This is private. She looked at him carefully. What if I want to talk to my friend? Ethan's eyes turned cold. You can't. It's part of the agreement, Clara. Look down. All right, she said softly. Ethan turned to leave but stopped. If you need something, tell the staff. I'll make sure you're taken care of. He left without another word. Clara sat still, trying to understand her own feelings. She wanted to be strong, but a quiet sadness filled her. Days passed slowly. The doctor came every morning, checked her pulse, and smiled kindly. Clara asked her once, Do many women do this? The doctor looked at her and said, Not many. It takes courage. Clara nodded. Courage. She was not sure if she had it, but she wanted to believe she did. Every meal was served on time. Every night she lay in silence. She wanted to hear music, a voice, something human. Once she heard Ethan speaking on the phone in another room. His tone was strict, almost cold. I said, I don't want to talk about it. Again, he said. She heard him hang up. And then silence returned. That night she could not sleep. She sat by the window and whispered, Why does he live like this? She thought about his eyes. There was something behind them. Not cruelty, not hate, but deep pain. The next day, Ethan called her to the living room. He was reading some papers. Sit, he said. Clara sat across from him. You'll get your first payment next week, the rest after birth. Clara nodded. All right. He looked at her, his expression calm. Do you have questions? Clara hesitated. Why are you doing this? You could adopt. Ethan looked away for a moment. Because I want a child that is mine, he said. Slowly. I lost everything 2 years ago. I'm trying to build something again. Clara listened quietly. There was a long silence. She wanted to say something kind but didn't know what. Finally she whispered, I'm sorry for your loss. Ethan looked surprised. He nodded slightly and said, Thank you. That night Clara thought about his words. I lost everything. She felt something in her heart. Not love, not yet, but understanding. Weeks moved quietly. She started writing. In a small notebook Lena had once given her, she wrote about her feelings, her fears, and her memories. She wrote, I miss the sound of laughter. I miss the city, but I must stay strong. One afternoon she was walking down the hallway when she heard soft piano notes. She followed the sound. Ethan was sitting at the piano, eyes closed, playing slowly. Clara stopped near the door. That's beautiful, she said softly. Ethan opened his eyes. My wife loved this song, he said. She played it every evening. Clara stepped closer. It's a sad melody. Ethan nodded. It is, but it reminds me of her smile. They stood there for a while saying nothing. For the first time Clara saw the man behind the rules, a man who was broken. Later that night, Clara sat on her bed and wrote again in her notebook. He is not cruel. He is lost. Maybe I am too. The next morning the doctor smiled and said, You're doing well, Clara. Keep calm. The baby is growing. Clara smiled for the first time in many days. She whispered, Thank you. When Ethan came to check on her, she said quietly, The doctor says everything is fine. He nodded. Good. Then he surprised her by asking, Are you comfortable here? She looked at him carefully. It's quiet, she said. He smiled faintly. Silence can be peaceful or it can be heavy. Clara replied, Sometimes it feels heavy. Ethan looked at her for a long second and said, Maybe it will change. That small exchange warmed her heart. Later she thought about those words. Maybe it will change. She didn't know why, but she believed him. That night she dreamed of her old life. Lena laughing, her mother's photo, the little painting she once sold. When she woke up, tears were on her face. She wiped them away and whispered, I can do this. 9 months suddenly felt both long and short. She didn't know what waited ahead, pain, joy, or heartbreak. But for the first time since she lost her job, she felt a small light of purpose. She touched her stomach and said softly, We'll be okay. Join our membership for exclusive English stories. Link in the description. Chapter 3. The Man Behind the Walls. Days turned into weeks. Clara followed every rule Ethan had given. She woke early, ate on time, and let the doctor check her each morning. Everything looked perfect on the outside, yet she felt empty inside. There were no sounds of laughter, no friendly voices, only the quiet ticking of a clock. Sometimes she wondered if this house was even alive. One evening she sat at the dining table, staring at her untouched food. Ethan entered quietly. You should eat, he said. Clara looked up. I'm trying, she whispered. It feels hard when there's no one to talk to. Ethan stayed silent for a few seconds. You can talk to me, he said at last. Clara smiled faintly. I thought I wasn't allowed. Ethan sighed. Rules can change if both sides agree. It was the first time he sounded human, not like a man reading from a list. From that day he started joining her for short talks after dinner. First, They spoke about small things, books, music, work. Then one night Clara asked, softly, "Why did you choose me?" Ethan looked at her for a long moment. "You reminded me of someone," he said. "Someone kind." She wanted to ask more, but his voice broke slightly and she stayed quiet. Another day she told him about her childhood. "My mom used to paint," she said. "We didn't have money for colors, so she mixed leftover shades." Ethan listened closely. "You miss her," he said. Clara nodded. "She died when I was 16. I never said goodbye for a moment." Ethan's eyes softened. "I lost my family too," he whispered. "Sometimes I wonder if pain ever stops." They grew used to each other's presence. It was not friendship and not love. Something in between. Clara would hear his footsteps and feel less lonely. Ethan began asking about the baby. "How are you feeling?" he said one morning. "A bit tired," she replied. He nodded. "That's normal. I'll tell the doctor to check your vitamins." She smiled. "You sound like a father already." He looked away, almost embarrassed. One afternoon the doctor told Clara the baby's heartbeat was strong. Ethan stood beside her, listening to the small sound from the monitor. For a moment both smiled without words. Clara said softly, "It's real now." Ethan whispered, "Yes, real." The warmth of that tiny heartbeat filled the silence that had ruled the house for months, but happiness was fragile. A week later Ethan received a phone call. His face changed while listening. When he hung up, Clara asked gently, "Bad news," he said coldly. "Nothing that concerns you." She felt the wall return between them. That night he didn't come to dinner. She sat alone, staring at the empty chair. Later she heard the piano again. The same sad tune. She walked to the room and stood by the door. "You play when you're hurting," she said quietly. Ethan stopped but didn't turn. "It reminds me that I'm still human," he said. Clara stepped closer. "Then keep playing. Don't hide your pain." He looked at her finally, eyes filled with sadness. "You shouldn't care," he whispered. Clara replied, "I can't help it." Days after, Ethan began leaving small notes on the table. Short messages like, "Eat well or rest more." Clara saved them all. She didn't know why they mattered so much, but they did. Each one felt like a piece of warmth in her cold world. One morning she was reading one of the notes when Ethan appeared. "You kept them," he said softly. "Yes," she replied, "because they feel honest." He looked down and said, "I haven't been honest about many things." She waited for him to explain, but he changed the topic. "The doctor says everything looks good. Keep taking care of yourself." Then he walked away. That night Clara wrote in her notebook, "He hides behind walls, but I can see the man inside. He is broken, but so am I." She began dreaming of him. His quiet voice, his tired eyes, the way he touched the piano keys. She tried to stop thinking about him, but her heart didn't listen. The next morning Ethan knocked on her door. "We're having lunch together today," he said. "Why?" she asked. "Because I want to," he replied. It was simple, but it felt special. They ate in silence for a while. Then Ethan said softly, "Thank you for being here. This house feels different now." Clara smiled. "Maybe it's the baby," she teased. He smiled back. "Maybe it's you." Those words stayed with her the whole night. She realized something was changing inside both of them. The contract had rules, but hearts didn't follow rules. She knew this feeling was dangerous, but she couldn't stop it. She whispered to herself before sleeping, "I think I'm falling for the man behind the walls." Chapter 4. The woman at the door. Clara felt something new in the house. The silence that once felt cold now carried warmth. Ethan spoke more. He smiled sometimes. She had stopped counting the days. Her world was no longer empty. Every heartbeat of the baby reminded her that life was growing inside her and maybe love too. One morning she was sitting at the table eating breakfast when the doorbell rang. She heard voices in the hallway. Woman's sharp tone cut through the quiet. Clara turned her head. A beautiful woman entered the room without permission. Her eyes were full of anger. "Who is she?" the woman demanded, pointing at Clara. Ethan came from behind her. "Stop it." "Rachel," he said firmly. But Rachel ignored him. "Who is she?" she repeated. Louder this time. Ethan said quietly, "She's the surrogate." Rachel laughed bitterly. "So this is what you've become, paying women to carry your sadness." Clara sat frozen. She didn't know where to look. She wanted to disappear. Rachel turned to Ethan again. "You think this will fix what you lost? You think a stranger can replace love?" Her voice shook with rage. Ethan said softly, "Leave, Rachel. This has nothing to do with you anymore." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "You said you would never do this again," she cried. "You said you would heal." Ethan's face turned hard. "Please go." Rachel looked at Clara one last time. "He will break you too," she said and walked out. The sound of the door closing echoed in Clara's chest. Her hands were trembling. She wanted to ask questions but couldn't find the words. Ethan stood in silence. Clara whispered, "Who was she?" Ethan answered quietly, "My ex-fiancé." Clara's heart dropped. "Does she hate me now?" she asked. "It doesn't matter," he said coldly. Clara looked at him with tears in her eyes. "It matters to me," she said. "She looked at me like I ruined something." Ethan said nothing. His silence hurt more than her words. Clara stood up and said softly, "You said I could talk to you, but now it feels like I shouldn't." Ethan turned his face away. "This isn't personal, Clara. You know that." She felt her chest tighten. "Not personal," she whispered. "Then why do I feel like my heart is breaking?" Ethan didn't answer. He walked out of the room. The sound of his footsteps faded down the hallway. That night, Clara couldn't eat. She sat by the bed, staring at her notebook. The pages were full of her thoughts, her feelings, her secret hope that maybe Ethan cared. Now, all of that felt foolish. She wrote slowly, "I forgot this was a contract. I forgot it was only a deal." Her tears fell on the page. She closed the notebook and whispered, "I should never have let my heart dream." The next day, Ethan avoided her. He didn't come for breakfast or lunch. The doctor said everything was fine, but Clara felt something inside her had cracked. She tried to smile when the doctor left, but her eyes betrayed her pain. Later that evening, Ethan knocked on her door. Clara didn't move. He said quietly, "I didn't mean to hurt you." She opened the door slowly. "Then why did you make me feel like I'm nothing?" Ethan looked at her, his face unreadable. "Because feelings make things complicated," he said. Clara's voice trembled. "Complicated doesn't mean wrong, Ethan. It means we're alive for a moment." Neither spoke. Then Ethan said coldly, "You were never supposed to feel anything. This is business." Clara felt her knees weaken. She whispered, "I understand now." She closed the door and locked it. Ethan stayed outside for a few seconds, then walked away. She pressed her hand against the door, her heart shaking. "Why did you make me believe you cared?" she cried quietly. The next morning she looked in the mirror and said, "I'll finish this. I'll keep my promise, but my heart will never be the same." In the notebook she wrote one final line for that day. He built walls, but I walked into them with my eyes open. The love she had started to feel now turned into quiet heartbreak. Yet deep down, she knew the story was not over. Join our membership for exclusive English stories. Link in the description. Chapter 5. The Hidden Photograph. Days passed after Rachel's visit, but peace never came back. Ethan stopped talking again. He kept himself locked inside his study. Clara tried to pretend she was fine, yet her heart felt heavier. Every day, she wrote in her notebook, I should not have cared, but I did. The baby inside her was growing fast. Every little movement reminded her that life was still moving, even if love was not. She missed Ethan's soft tone, his small smiles, and the way he once asked if she was comfortable. Now he spoke only when necessary. The house felt cold again, but this time the pain came from inside her, not from silence alone. One morning Ethan said he had to leave for a few days. Business trip, he said. Simply. Clara nodded. Take care. He turned and left without another word. When the sound of his car faded, she whispered, You forgot to say goodbye. The next day she went to his office to leave a note on his desk. She wanted to write, Come back soon. But when she entered the room she noticed dust on the table and papers out of order. She thought cleaning would help her mind. She folded documents, arranged files, and opened a small drawer to keep a pen. Inside was a photo. She froze. It was a picture of her smiling younger, standing outside her old workplace. It was taken long before she met him. Her hands trembled. How did he get this? Why would he keep it hidden? She sat there for a long time staring at the image. Then she whispered, You already knew me. When Ethan returned 2 days later, she was waiting. Her eyes were red from crying. We need to talk, she said. Ethan looked tired. About what? Clara held up the photo. About this. He stopped, breathing for a moment. Where did you find it? He asked. In your drawer. She said. Now tell me why you had it before we met. Ethan sat down slowly. I needed to know who would live here, he said. I checked your background. I wanted to be sure you were safe and honest. Clara's voice broke. You call this safety? You searched my past like I was an item you bought. You didn't even trust me. Ethan whispered. It wasn't about trust. I needed to be certain after everything I lost. She shook her head. You didn't lose me, Ethan. You never even had me. You built a wall and called it protection. He stood up, trying to come closer, but she stepped back. Don't, she said. Believed you cared. I thought maybe we were both healing. But now I see. You were only watching me. Her tears fell one after another. You said this was a business deal. Maybe that's all it ever was. Ethan whispered. Clara, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix trust, she said quietly. You can't buy honesty. You earn it. She walked to her room, packed her small bag, and looked around once more. The baby moved inside her, and she whispered, We'll go where love still feels real. Ethan stood by the doorway, speechless. Where will you go? He asked. To peace, she said softly. You can keep the photo if you need to remember what you lost. That night, she left the mansion without turning back. The wind touched her face, but she didn't cry again. She had already cried enough. As she sat on the train toward the city, she touched her stomach and whispered, It's just us now. She didn't know what waited ahead, but she knew she had done the right thing. Far behind, Ethan stood alone in the empty house, holding the picture that had started it all. He finally understood what he had broken. Something far greater than any contract. Send a super thanks if this story touched your heart. It really helps us continue creating. Chapter 6. The Return. 2 weeks passed after Clara left Ethan's house. She stayed with her friend Lena again in the same small apartment where everything had begun. Life looked almost the same, yet she was not the same woman anymore. She had walked away from pain, but her heart had not stopped missing him. Every night she dreamed of his face and woke up crying. Lena tried to cheer her up. You did the right thing, she said. Clara nodded, but her eyes stayed sad. Then why does it hurt so much? She whispered. Because you cared, Lena said softly. Days turned into nights and time moved slowly. One morning while drinking tea, Clara felt something inside her, a soft movement. She placed her hand on her stomach and gasped. The baby had kicked. For the first time in weeks she smiled. Tears filled her eyes. You're still here, she whispered. You're my reason. Now. That evening she wrote in her notebook. Again. I wanted love and found disappointment, but this little life gives me hope. Again. She closed the book and sat quietly near the window. She didn't know Ethan would soon come back. The next day someone knocked on the door. Clara thought it was Lena, but when she opened it, her heart stopped. Ethan stood there. He looked tired, thinner, and his eyes were full of regret. He was holding flowers. Clara, he said softly, I needed to see you. Clara froze. Why are you here? She asked. Ethan took a deep breath. Because I broke my own rules. I said, no love, no feelings, but I lied to myself. I fell in love with you. Her eyes filled with tears. Don't say that, she whispered. You hurt me. I know, he said. And I hate myself for it. I was afraid to love again after losing everything. But when you left, I realized losing you hurt even more. Clara turned away. How can I trust you now? She asked. Ethan stepped closer. You don't have to trust my words. Just look at me. I didn't come for the contract or the baby. I came for you. Clara's heart beat fast. She wanted to be angry, but her voice broke. You don't deserve another chance, Ethan. I know, he said quietly. But I'll spend the rest of my life earning it if you let me. For a long moment she looked at him. His eyes were wet, his hands shaking. Finally she said, you taught me how to be strong. I don't need you, Ethan, but I still want you. He smiled through his tears. Then come home, he whispered. Clara nodded slowly. Only if we build a new one, she said. Ethan's voice trembled. Together. She stepped closer and he held her hand. Gently. For the first time it felt right. She whispered, I'm carrying your child, but maybe you're the one who needs saving. He nodded. You already saved me. That night they sat quietly together. No more words left to say. The past was painful, but forgiveness had opened the door to peace. For the first time the silence between them felt warm. Join our membership for exclusive English stories. Link in the description. Chapter 7. The Locked Room. Clara returned with Ethan, but her heart was still unsure. He was gentle now, softer than before. He spoke kindly, helped her, and smiled when she laughed. But inside her there was still fear. Love could heal, but trust took time. Each day passed quietly. The baby was growing fast, and Ethan did everything to make her feel safe. Yet sometimes Clara caught him staring at a locked door near the library. His eyes would change when he looked at it, sad, distant, and cold. When she asked, what's behind that door? He always said nothing important. But she knew he was lying. One afternoon Ethan had to meet someone outside. The house felt silent again. Clara walked past the locked door. Her heart told her not to open it, but curiosity wouldn't stop. She searched his study and found a small silver key, hidden under some papers. Her hands trembled as she held it. Maybe I shouldn't, she whispered. But then she thought, if I'm going to trust him again, I must know the truth. She turned the key. The door opened with a soft sound. Inside there were boxes, an old chair, and on the wall photos. Ethan with his late wife, a young woman, smiling, holding a baby in her arms. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Then she noticed one more box. Inside were baby clothes, a music box, and letters. One letter had her name written on it. She froze. She sat down and opened it. The letter was written in a woman's gentle handwriting. Dear Clara, it began. You don't know me, but I met you once. You were painting in a small art event. I was sick, scared, and tired of life. But you smiled at me and told me that kindness never dies. I never forgot those words. Clara covered her mouth, tears running down her cheeks. The letter continued. If someday my husband tries to live again, I hope he finds you. You gave me hope when I had none. Thank you, Clara. She dropped the letter. She finally remembered that day. Years ago, a woman at an art fair, coughing, sitting alone. Clara had given her a small painting and said, "Hope never dies." That woman had been Ethan's wife. Her heart raced. She whispered, "He knew me before the contract." When Ethan came home, he saw the open door. "You went in there," he said softly. Clara looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You should have told me." Ethan walked closer. "I wanted to. I was afraid you'd leave again." "Why did you choose me?" she asked. He took the letter from her hand gently. "Because my wife told me that if I ever wanted peace, I should find you. She said you were light when she was dying. I didn't know what that meant until I met you again." Clara cried harder. "You should have told me from the beginning. I thought I was just a deal to you." Ethan's voice shook. "At first you were, but then you became everything." They stood there, both crying, both silent. Clara said softly, "You don't have to live in guilt anymore. She wanted you to be happy." Ethan looked at her with love and pain mixed together. She was right. "You brought life back into this house. Into me." Clara touched his hand. "And maybe she never left. Maybe she's watching us right now." Ethan smiled through tears. She'd be happy to see this piece. They sat together holding the letter between them. The truth had hurt, but it had also healed them. Clara finally understood that destiny had brought them together long before any contract. She whispered, "This was never about money. It was about finding what we both lost." Ethan nodded. "Hope. Send a super thanks if this story touched your heart. It really helps us continue creating." Chapter 8. The New Beginning. Months passed quietly after the truth came out. Clara and Ethan no longer hid their pain. They talked about the past and let it rest. The house felt lighter. But what really changed was their hearts. They had stopped fighting what was already there. Love. The baby came sooner than expected. Ethan stayed beside her, holding her hand through the pain. Clara cried and laughed at the same time. When the doctor placed the tiny girl in her arms, she whispered, "Olivia." Ethan smiled softly. "Peace," he said. It was the first word that truly belonged to both of them. After the hospital, life started again. Slow and gentle. Ethan helped with feedings. Clara painted when the baby slept. They didn't talk much about the old contract anymore. It was gone like a bad dream. When Ethan looked at Clara, he saw not a deal but the woman who had brought him back to life. One night he said, quietly, "Do you ever think about her? My wife?" Clara nodded. "Think she's still here. In every smile and every bit of peace we found." Ethan looked down at the sleeping baby. Then maybe she helped me find you. Clara touched his arm. She did. Years slipped by like soft wind. Olivia learned her first word, then her first song. Ethan would play piano and she would laugh, hitting the keys with tiny hands. Clara painted that moment, calling it Hope Returns. The painting sold later, but she kept another copy just for them. Sometimes, Clara still wrote in her notebook, I came for money. I found love. I carried a child and carried a man's broken heart too. Both healed inside me. She closed the book and smiled. Lena visited often. She couldn't believe how life had changed. You look happy, she said. Clara laughed. I finally am. Lena hugged her. I told you something good would come. Ethan opened a small charity for families who couldn't have children. Clara began teaching art to young mothers. Together they gave what they had once lost, hope. One evening while Olivia played, Ethan sat at the piano again. The same song his wife had loved filled the room, but this time it didn't sound sad. Clara stood beside him. You've changed the music, she said. Ethan smiled. You changed the meaning. Clara looked at him and whispered, this was never just a contract. Ethan nodded. It was our second chance. Olivia ran to them, holding her tiny brush and saying, family picture. They laughed. Clara took her daughter's hand and said, yes, let's paint our forever. That night, as they put Olivia to sleep, Ethan whispered, thank you for staying. Clara smiled through tears. Thank you for finding me. Outside the world kept moving, but inside that small room time stood still. Just peace, love, and a new beginning. Like, subscribe, and share. Read this story and many more on our website bookishenglish.com. Link in the description. The end.